phones before we start the meeting. Your phones and your other electronic things. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And our first thing on the agenda is a welcome from River Valley Middle School. And I understand that J.T. Cox is going to provide that for us. Come forward, J.T.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Michelle Dyer would love to be here. I wish I was Michelle. I'm not. I'm J.T. Cox. I'm the assistant principal at River Valley. Her youngest son is graduating from Ivy Tech tonight, so she thought she had better be there, or she was going to be in some trouble.
Absolutely.
So I'm gladly here tonight. We're just going to share just a little sliver of some of the things that are going on at River Valley, just give you guys a taste of some of the things that's going on. So I want to bring up social studies teacher, or 8th grade social studies teacher, Chris Will, and then Mr. Ferguson.
River Valley, we did a PBL on the War of 1812, where the kids all researched reasons for or against going to the War of 1812. And as at the end of the event, took 3 weeks, then the kids all we voted for a Congress, and had the other 250 kids in the cafeteria while the members of Congress debated whether they were going to the war or not. And here comes the Speaker of the House right now. Oh, passport shot at the buzzer. So she played our Speaker of the House that led the Congress debate. So she'll take it from here.
Congress is now in session on this day, May 15, 2018. Today's bill of approval will be called HB-18. This bill will decide whether or not the U.S. will enter the War of 1812.
This was something to be mad about. These reasons are why we didn't need the war. War costs us a lot of material and men. It hurt our nation and the people that live there. It was a mistake to risk our men's lives in this war, or get severely injured. In the war, 15,000 of our troops died for a war where we got nothing. After the war, the total costs were $105 million, and we got nothing from the UK. And possibly the biggest out of all of them, our White House was burned down. We could have avoided all this by not going to war. And in my second reason, this war hurt the US more than the enemy. The Embargo Act, which ignited the war, hurt us with resources and trading. It didn't affect the British as much. After we won the war, the US decided not to capture anything or take anything from the British. Even with the victory in the war, we had much more fatalities in the field than the British did. For the British, the war only cost $10 million, much less than us. They lost not even half the troops we did. It comes to the surprise of many that we somehow won this war. And to think the capital of the White House burned down during this war. And finally, our government was young and inexperienced. We had just got freedom and were a brand new nation. Our government had never experienced anything like this and was going up against a huge powerhouse in the British. We were immature and unready for this war. All the Federalists repelled this war and even some Republicans. It was a very bad idea to start the war against one of the biggest war countries in the world. Although many people argue and say that this helped our reputation of united domination over a major country, this obviously came with lots of sacrifice. We didn't need this war, and it hurt our nation more than it helped. We wasted so much life and resource in a war we did not need to fight. This war was not worth it at all. People could have had healthy, nice lives, live with their family, but it was all ruined because of this war. This did pull Britain away from us, but at the cost, it wasn't worth it. For us to capture nothing, get nothing but negatives, is completely ridiculous. All those people's lives for nothing. In conclusion, we should not have fought in this war and keep peace with the British instead of fighting them. We wasted lives and money to get nothing in return. Our government wasn't ready, and we put our nation in serious danger. This war was completely unnecessary, and we wasted so much for a pointless war. We chose to put ourselves in this war. We chose to lose thousands of our lives for nothing but dominance over a country we would soon become allies with.
Thank you very much, Congressman Schultz. Later on, you will be seeing a video of the entire project and how the rest of the 8th graders voted. Thank you all for coming.
Roll call.
Oh, okay, they're finished with that. Okay, sorry, didn't know. Roll call. Please show that all board members are present. And if you would stand with me, say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the agenda as it is.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Renee, any additions or subtractions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Renee? All right. Do we have any public comments on the board agenda? Okay. If you'd step forward, Mr. McLaughlin.
Good evening, members of the board, administration, ladies and gentlemen of the public. I'm here to address your agenda item dealing with the CCISD, the Coalition of Continuous Improvement School Districts. My concern is one that's shared by ISTA and its affiliates around the state, with certain language included in that. Specifically at the end of the proposal / application, it asks for a description of state laws, rules, regulations that might create a barrier to the district plan. And the response is that in order to maximize the success of our academies of Greater Clark implementation, flexibility in teacher licensing and curriculum will be necessary. Therefore, Greater Clark is looking forward to its involvement in the CCISD in order to get relief from state-level teacher licensing and curriculum rules and regulations. Our concerns begin with this language. Generally, it's the type of language that's often proposed in statutes that are submitted by what's often been referred to as the reform movement, the anti-public education groups that propose vouchers, charter schools, those types of things. That language is typical for their types of statutory proposals, so it immediately raises a red flag for us. In this instance, it asks specifically for the rules and regs that are to be sought relief from, and there's really nothing listed. And I understand from a discussion with Dr. Mellon that it is very preliminary at this stage and they're rushing to get through this. But until such time as what specific rules, regs, statutes, or other statutory enactments that are sought to be exempted from, we have a concern for that broad-based language. It's long been the position of ISTA and its affiliates that teacher licensing is an essential part of getting a strong educators into our public education system. And it would be our position rather than move towards what's been allowed for the charter schools and their exemptions, would be the proper approach would be to move them back and have them have to have licensing and be subject to all the rules and regulations that the current public education schools are. Certainly their track record with all the exemptions they've received and with the unlicensed, the use of unlicensed teaching has not proven to be the great thing that many of these reform proponents have thought it would be. So it would be our contention that teacher licensing continues to be an important part of preparing people for a classroom. Now, discussions with Dr. Mellon he has indicated that the proposal would be better for the the betterment of our academy system, and we have found that academy system, as we understand it, to be a good system. So to move a current teacher into a field that he or she might otherwise not be licensed, but this teacher having been licensed and having been prepared and gone through an education program is a good thing. But to take someone who is not prepared for education simply because they have a certain type of degree or expertise and throw them into a classroom without any teacher preparation would be something we would find to be not in the best interest of Greater Clarksville and students.
Thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is board planning, goals and strategies, and it's the graduation pathways. And I believe Dr. Mellon, you're going to share with us that information.
Board, I could probably talk to you about this for at least 30 minutes, but I promise I won't do that. This graduation pathway work is very vital and critical to the future of our school system. Basically, because of the concerns with the state test at the high school level, there was real movement to try to look at an alternative way for students to be able to graduate from high school, to show that they have the proficiencies and skills to graduate above and beyond a state test. Just to give you an example, the current 10th grade math I-STEP test, the percentage of passage by sophomores around the entire state is in the 30% area. So there's a very big disconnect relative to that state test for 10th grade and where our students are truly in their mathematical skills. And so the whole idea is to phase state testing out over the next couple of years at the 10th grade level and transition to the graduation pathways. And there's a document that I've attached that I will not read to you, but I do advise you to take some time, because a lot of work has gone into the development of these pathways. And I would like to just show you on the very cover of the document. There basically are, we call them buckets. There will be 3 buckets that a student would have to make sure that they achieve in order to graduate. Now, this is a must for all students starting no later than 2023, but can take effect as early as this school year, believe it or not, which was pretty fast. But what we're currently working on is how can this apply to our seniors for next year? And we're trying to transition our school system, working with our high school principals and our staffs to make sure that we can transition our students to these 3 buckets as soon as possible, because frankly, I think it's a much more fair determination of a student's ability to succeed after high school than the current 10th grade I-STEP test. So the first bucket is the high school diploma. So a student must earn their high school diploma, which is pretty obvious. There's been a change in the state. There will be 1 high school diploma that will start next year, and that high school diploma will have 4 designations. And the designations will be academic honors, technical honors, Core 40, as well as general. They're designations, but there's 1 diploma, and that's because of graduation rate. The federal requirement in what's called ESSA is different than what the state requirement has been relative to a high school diploma. So by having 1 high school diploma, we can make sure our graduation rate stays consistent with our current state graduation rate. Second bucket is learn and demonstrate employability skills. So students have to engage during their high school career in at least 1 project-based learning experience, or service-based learning, or work-based learning experience. Well, all of our teachers are going through a process of being trained in project-based learning through our academy work. So we believe that it's going to be very reasonable to expect students as early as next year, seniors for sure, going through at least a project-based learning experience that can be documented, and therefore that can be checked off in the second bucket. But it's also important for you to note that under work-based learning experience, the state is also recognizing the governor's work ethic certificate as another means for satisfying that bucket. So I'm pretty, I feel honored that that became part of this graduation pathway piece. The third bucket is post-secondary ready competencies. And you can look down the list, and this is the one that's a little bit more complicated. So if you think about 40% of our students approximately earn an honors diploma. If they earn an honors diploma, check off the box. They are prepared to graduate. You also have students that take the ACT predominantly in our district, and if they meet a certain score, click off the box. Some students may take the SAT, and if they get a college-ready benchmark score, click that off. There's also what's called the ASVAB, which is a Armed Forces battery test that can be taken by students, and we believe that is something that will be implemented to a higher level and degree to meet the needs of all of our students in the future, at least for those students who may not be able to meet the other benchmarks. And then you can see different certifications, apprenticeships, and then the Career Technical Ed Concentrator. If you go to Prosser for 1 year, you spend a half day at Prosser for an entire year, you will earn 6 credits. You're a concentrator in a particular area. It might be in information technology, it could be in the automotive trades, it could be, but that would qualify a student as long as they had a C average. So that bucket could be checked. If you end up earning a certain number of dual credits or AP credits, and you know last year we had 8,300 plus credits earned, dual credits earned by this district, students in this district, then that could also qualify. And the last one is the locally created pathways. Now our pathways through our academies, it's our goal to make sure that all of those are approved one way or the other through CTE or through this means, so that once a student goes through their 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year, that's 2 credits a year, that's 6 credits total that they would qualify. So the challenge will be for at a high school level with our counseling staffs in particular, and with our academy approach, is just to make sure we're tracking this at a very early stage. We have to track all of our students to make sure that they hit all 3 of those buckets. It's logistically a little bit more demanding, but I believe it's a lot more fair than the current I-STEP test at 10th grade. So I'm looking forward to the work. We'll be bringing a lot more to you related to this. This document is well put together. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I just wanted to give you an overview of the document.
It appears we're going to be in pretty good shape.
I think we are very well prepared. If you look down in all of those buckets, I think we're extremely well prepared, probably better prepared than other school systems because of all the work that we have been doing relative to college and career readiness.
Board, any comments? Thank you. Next is our budget report and fund monitoring report. Dr. Dykel, please. Little bitty numbers.
Good afternoon, Board. On the general fund, you can see for the month of April, we collected $5,609,000. Only spent $5,081,000, so that was good. We only spent 7.3% of our budget this month. That was real good. We're looking at an ending cash balance in December of $1,373,000. In debt service, there was no income, no expenditures. We're projecting positive $6,632. In the pension debt, there was no activity on the income or expenditures. It's only a June and December like debt service. Ending cash balance of $63,000. In capital projects, we received local option income tax lit for $62,299. That was the only income we received, and we spent $685,000. So we have, we're projecting an ending cash balance of about $534,000. Transportation operating fund, we only had $820 in revenue come in. That was from receipts from extracurricular and some overpayments refunds. and we spent $387,000. $353,000, and we're looking at about a $525,000 ending cash balance. Bus replacement, no revenue came in. We spent $78,307, and we're looking at about $158,000 cash balance. Rainy day fund, no income. We spent $293,000, so our ending cash balance is $4.6 million. So, do you have any questions?
Any questions, board?
I'd be the best of seeing all of those funds in a while. So, thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Dykle, and I believe you have the next presentation, the student clinic update.
On that one, this is our quarterly, and you can see Charlestown High School is always exceeding Jeffersonville High School as far as the number of new patients. Med sent home, Charlestown sent 105 home, Jeff 41. Prescriptions given to the patient was 88 at Charlestown, 50 at Jeff. Labs performed 193 at Charlestown, 93 at Jeff. Summary to parent, 225 at Charlestown, 138 at Jeff. Summary to the primary care provider, the physician, 191 at Charlestown, 85 at Jeff. Parent present, that I'd like to see this, 156 present at Charlestown and 89 at Jeff. Sent back to class, 70 at Charlestown, 35 at Jeff. These kids would normally go back home. And sent home, we sent still 169 sent home at Charlestown and only 44 at Jeff. And 3 kids came in at the end of the day to see the nurse practitioner at Charlestown and 8 at Jeff. And then student absent, at the end of the day, they were sent home at the end of the day. Student absent that came from home, none at Charlestown and 36 at Jeff. So that was good. So they weren't feeling good during the whole day. They came in at the end of the day to see the nurse practitioner. And you can see we had 2 go to the emergency room for each school. That's our statistics. Everybody loves the clinic, student clinic.
Okay, do you have any comments for or any questions of Dr. Dykle? Thank you, Dr. Dykle. Next is student achievement, and we're going to have some presentations on the SIG grant, right?
We are. Since 2015, we've applied for and have been awarded almost $3 million in funding to be funded over a 5-year period. These grants have been for Title I schools who qualified, and they're proving to be pretty transformative to the schools who have been awarded. Part of the requirements of the grant is that we present twice annually to the board. We typically try to do it at the beginning of the school year and then at the end of the year, so that you can see at the beginning of the year what we plan to do, and then at the end of the year how we've come through. So the first school we'd like to show is Bridgepoint, showcase Bridgepoint Elementary, and Jackie Diaz.
I mean, I am going to make it really hard for the other guys to go now, because I'm pretty awesome, but I'm kidding. The SIG grant has been invaluable to our staff over the past 2 years, even more so this year as we get in and we understand even more about where we're going, where we need to go, and how to get there. In conjunction with the data-wise process, it has really just allowed us to dig in deep and figure this out. I'm going to show you just some of our metrics, some of the statistics. I'm going to start out with, my background is I was a special ed teacher, basically behaviors. So I'm always very proud of the fact that we are decreasing behavior incidents. If we look back at 2015-16 school year, there were discipline log entries, so our referrals. We were at 448. It decreased to 193 last year and even down to 148 this year. Wow. Continuing to decrease. Out of school suspensions, we went from 61 in 15-16 down to 50 last year, and we're at 38 right now. So that at 50, I was worried. I'm like, okay, we've made a huge decrease. What's next? But then to still see that decrease this year was pretty exciting. If you want to go on to the next one. Restraints and seclusions. Now, We have a self-contained unit with children with emotional handicaps, and that is primarily where we do have our restraint seclusion. We only restrain a child if they're physically unsafe to themselves or to other people. If they are throwing objects or whatever like that, as long as they're being safe, we don't worry about that. If you look at 132 in the 2015-16 school year, down to 58 last year, and then currently we're sitting at 29 for this school year. And then the seclusions, we were at 127 and 15-16. This year last year we were at 16-17, we were at 43, and this year we're sitting at 36. So again, those numbers continue to decrease. And you may ask why. What's going on different? What are you doing? Well, one of the big areas is the implementation of our PRIDE program. Through our state funding, we're able to really get in there where I was able to provide training for our teachers this summer and time for them to plan about what our PRIDE program was going to look like. We've been able to pull some funds to train teachers through that and how to teach PRIDE, how to teach those values and those skills. We just had Mr. Denny come over, and our STEP score, that's where they evaluate our PRIDE system, increased from a 78.5 at the beginning of the year to now we're sitting at 96%. So we're implementing PRIDE at a higher level than we were before. They come in, they look at all components of our PRIDE program. They talk to our kids, they talk to our teachers, they talk to our custodians, all support staff, and see where their level of understanding and their level of implementation of our PRIDE program. That in itself is decreasing the behaviors because our kids are feeling ownership. They're feeling a part of this. We have quarterly incentives. We have daily activities going on. We've implemented a program called Dojo, which is it's a classroom web-based program where the kiddos can get red and green dojos. It's specifically tied to what the behaviors are, what our targeted behaviors are, and it gives our teachers some good data. So our teachers can reflect and say, okay, so I seem to be giving a lot of red dojos for classroom disruption. Well, what does that look like? So then they break it down even more. And they can look at, okay, well, it's out of your seat or throwing an object, and then we can develop a social skills lesson that goes along with that. How to do that more appropriately in the classroom and work on those skills. So we're more targeted and deliberate with our data at that time. It's also a huge component, which goes along with our SIG grant, is that parent communication with the dojo. It acts as like an instant messenger where you can do direct messaging with parents. So parents throughout the day are interacting with their teachers, the students teach the students. They're able to see where their kids are falling, so they can see if their kids are getting a green or a red or what's going on, and they can see how their kids' days are going. It also gives them that opportunity to message a teacher and say, hey, what was this about, or where is this, and give that great parental communication, because we're in that technology world where texting is it. And it also allows my teachers to be able to have that connection without giving out their personal cell phone information. So just the implementation of the PRIDE program has really decreased that. De-escalation training, we did that last year with our staff. We continued that this year. We were able to do that in an outside time frame, outside of our period zero, so we were able to pay our teachers to come in and really get in there and learn what it looks like to de-escalate a child, keeping the kid in the class instead of sending them out for referrals in office time. We do weekly social skills lessons. We were able to purchase that through our SIG grant, and it's research-based. We don't have to make it up, and our social worker is implementing those. Our teachers are doing bullying lesson plans out of that same program. We've used composure corners. We've been able to have parent groups formed around love and logic with trauma-informed care. We have lunch bunch, mentor buddies, and we have a social worker on our staff all the time. Now, we would like for that to continue to be funded after our grant is out, because she is invaluable. She services over 40 families a week just in food pantry service and clothing service. She coordinates getting our kids in touch with outside service providers, as well as coordinating our in-school service providers. She is that liaison between the community and our school. A parent comes in with a need, and she is quickly able to fill that. And having a person dedicated to on our staff to be able to meet those social and emotional needs of our students decreases the amount of time that they're out of class and the way they're learning how to control themselves and how to do that. And then our Read and Feed bus. Last year we talked a lot about the Read and Feed bus. Super cool program. You should come by and see us this summer. I'll make sure you have the schedule. You can come out and visit. But it gives our teachers time to be out in the community, eating lunch with the kids, sharing books with the kids, meeting parents, and then it's letting the parents know that our teachers care. It's building that relationship outside of the school, so when there is an issue that we have that trust with each other, and opening up our school building to our families. And I think that is my number one goal, is getting our families. It's their school, it's not ours, it's theirs. And so building that relationship, and that's the Read and Feed has done that tremendously. Now that's a lot about behavior. We also do academics at school. Our English language arts this year. Just one of our metrics is looking at STAR. We have August and December, we don't have May. We're showing an increase in our students that are at or above grade level with their reading performance. As we look at this, it's concerning because we need to keep growing that. So we were able to, through our data-wise process and through the use of building our school playbook, go in and look at what's going on, what is our deficit, where do we need to grow, what do we need to work on. And one of the big things this year was our guided reading, really getting in and doing instructional programming based on school and student deficits. How do you do that? It's enormous. So we just started, we looked at who was doing it well, who was making growth, what were some things we needed to do. We were able to provide sub-days to go visit Parkwood and get information from them, and our teachers were able to go over there and spend time seeing how they've implemented their year 2 of implementation with that, and spend time talking to those teachers. My AIC was able to spend the time with that as well. Through state funding, I was able to provide that time for them to be there. And then we were able to do after-school training on what does that look like? How did you do that in the classroom? Let's make sure that we dedicate time to making this done. We also were able to fund a teacher resource library out of there, out of state funding, and make it top notch. It's really, it's not 100% done, but it's about 95%, right, Scott? It's been one of his babies, so. But where we are able to provide training and resources for our teachers with that. And then in math, that's where we really dug in deep with our data-wise process. And we are going in there, we're looking at conceptual teaching, what to do with that. And I just had a 3-hour training with my staff tonight on conceptual math teaching. And it came from the SIG grant, but then also from an online course that our teachers have taken recently. I have 5 teachers that have taken it, they're coming back and training our staff. The final thing that we want to look at is, and I want to thank you guys for this opportunity to have her, Dr. Rose. She has come in and has been a mentor for me this year, and my administration staff. So I want to thank Dr. Hartledge and the school board for allowing that to happen. She's been invaluable in teaching me how to do my job. And this job is huge. And knowing where to start. We have developed playbooks for our math, our language arts, and our writing, and really got to get in there and be focused. Instead of being a mile wide, we're going deep, and we're making changes. That's where we figured out where we needed to go with reading, where we needed to go with the conceptual units with math, where we decided what was going on and where our deficits were. Because we had time to meet with her, and she really got us focused and trained us in how to look at this big picture but make it doable. So I just thank you guys. I know that was something that was on the plate last year, and I really thank you guys for letting us do that. If you want to come see great things, I could talk to you for 4 hours about us. If you want to come see us, please come visit. I'm so proud of my staff and all the stuff they're doing. So, thank you. Thank you.
Bridgepoint and Parkview were our first rounders, and so their funding, their last year of funding will be 2019-20. And Jeremy Stewart.
That is a very tough act to follow, so bear with me. I just want to thank you all for allowing me to be here. If you watch closely, you're actually going to see Miss Jackie in one of our slides, so pay close attention. Here we go. In the fall, I presented it was 5 slides actually. I went back and looked at it, and we had these 4 slides with these 4 bullet points. what we're going to do with our school improvement grant for this school year. Our continuation of our ELA and Math Academies, focusing on instructional strategies. We found those to be invaluable the previous year, so we plan on continuing to do those. We started a new teacher orientation program where we could actually pay the new teachers to come in a day before school and work with them and get them used to how things run in Parkview and what we expect. Then we also started to build the foundation for project-based learning. This next year coming up, we knew that the academy model was going to start flowing down into the middle schools, and one of the branches that we wanted to take on was project-based learning. So we started that a year early, trying to get our teachers' feet wet, give them a little more structure, a little more support so that they feel comfortable in the next year and several years of doing that. And then also continuation of the leadership mentoring with Dr. Rhonda Rose, and I'll speak more on her in a minute. For our ELA and Math Academies, and I apologize, I have a new prescription for contacts. I can't see anything right now for some reason, so I'm going to be looking down here. We were able to have, first of all, when I became the principal, it's a rare thing you get to come in and say, hey, you have $50,000 you need to spend by September. And then the next year, like, well, here's another $260,000 you need to spend. I'm like, okay. So the academies we were able to do was actually pay teachers for staying after school hours to get professional development that they had a voice in saying, we need this. I just highlighted a few of the focuses for ELA and Math Academies. And I want to stress that in our ELA Academies, we had other teachers also in different areas come in for some help with writing initiative as well. But we solidified our guided reading strategies. We set up the independent reading structure. During guided reading, you have a small group that works directly with the teacher while the rest of the class are independently reading. Well, Rhonda actually helped us set up a structure for those students on how do you get them ready to be independent readers and the process for that. We had a big stress on writing this year. In ELA, they cover 4 areas: narrative, argumentative, informative, and then research. And across the curriculum this year, we actually had subject areas perform argumentative writing in part of their curriculum as well. And that was an amazing thing for me to see, to go into a social studies classroom, and our teachers had on the board argumentative writing, the structures, the parts that you need, and the kids were just like, yeah, we know this, we're going through it. So we wanted to give them more opportunities to write instead of just in their ELA classes. They also worked on growth mindset, which is something we're going to really focus on next year with our teachers and teaching them how to work with a growth mindset. They did a deep study of character. I was actually at several of these literacy academies, and I have learned a lot just being there myself, and it's very interesting, the things that maybe in high school and middle school I overlooked, I don't know, but some teaching kids pre-reading strategies, things that I think we probably do and don't realize, and that some students that aren't, they've never been an avid reader, they don't think about how do you read a book, when do you stop the question, just different strategies to help them to understand and build their comprehension. Math Academies, Miss Bauer and Miss Carrie Howe. Our ELA coach, by the way, is Barb Tolan. She does an amazing job. She's just phenomenal what she does. Math Academies were Miss Bauer, my assistant principal, and Carrie Howe run those. And they tackled teaching our teachers 21 conceptual units for them to actually put into their in their math units, their problem-solving units, and conceptual math is using visual aids, hand manipulative things to help you learn how fractions work, using fraction models, balancing equations, different things like that. And it's something, as a teacher, you can remember those moments when kids' light bulbs come on, they're like, oh my gosh, I understand this now. Well, we sat at Math Academy with teachers who have taught for 20 years, and light bulbs start going off for them when they see, oh my gosh, this conceptual piece really helped them understand things, and hopefully they would translate that over to their kids. So we reviewed the 3 of the 5 steps of a balanced math program, which that's a daily math review, conceptual math, which is a big focus, and then problem solving using the poster method. And then in our school improvement plan, our focus area in math was looking at problem solving but focusing on the process standards, because we had a lot of students, like was said earlier about the data-wise process. We realized a lot of our students were attempting the math problems, the applied problems, and doing work, but they weren't getting any points. So we had to focus in on, well, let's see what's causing that issue. And then we also do interactive notebooks It's something we stress very heavily in math, but it's starting to bleed out into other subject areas. And again, that's a strategy I wish they would have had when I was in school. It really makes your notebooks become a nice resource for studying. The next bullet was new teacher orientation and support. Again, we were able to pay our new teachers, and not just brand new teachers, but new teachers to our building, to come in a day early, and we did some icebreakers and team building activities. We had some PD for them just to learn how things work at Parkview Middle School, whether it's what are our literacy and numeracy, what are we doing in those areas, but also our pride program, and what our expectations are of our teachers, how do we reward our students, which, again, when you come into a system as a new person, for me, I've been there, well, I know how our pride program works, and I know what our focus is in numeracy, but as a new teacher, you don't know that. So it gave them a nice opportunity to actually get that before they, met their peers. And then we also held new teacher orientation monthly meetings, where we went over some things, again, that you just don't think about, like, oh, they don't know what the IEP is or how to look at a 504, and cover those. And again, a lot of that was driven by the need from the teachers themselves. So, and then also building the foundation for project-based learning. Something I've always said, I've been there for 2 years at Parkview Middle School. I'm just blessed with a really good staff. The PBL professional development that we used was led by 4 of our teachers that had did PBL training over the summer. So literally I just sat back and watched them work their magic. And one of the teachers got up there, he basically showed a video of the PBL unit that he did, and the hook he used was a video of mummified bodies on Mount Everest. That's how he hooked the kids right away. Well, I was like, well, what's this about? He gets you hooked. And then he went through how it led into tectonic plates and the economy, and all these things that tie in to the Himalayan mountains. In his social studies class, he talked about the argumentative piece that they used. But then at the end of it, he said, and then after I did it, I realized, man, I got a lot of work to do. Just different things he wanted to go back and tweak. And the biggest thing that came from him is said, just do it, just try it. All you can do with the PBL unit is jump in. You can do all these great plans and best things and think, oh, it's going to be awesome, but you just got to go in and try it, and then be willing to look back at your work and make some adjustment. So for that to come from a peer and a teacher, I think helped a lot of other teachers that night when they said, you know what, all right, I'm going to try this. And they come with a band teacher, choir teacher, science teacher, they all came up with PBL units that they implemented in their classrooms. So yeah, that was ran by 4 of our teachers that had received the training over the summer. And the last slide, if you want to turn around and look at this, I was working on this presentation, and I wanted to speak about Dr. Rhonda Rose and her role as my mentor for the past 2 years. And if you've had the honor of coming into my office after Rhonda's been there, you will notice that my whiteboards are covered, and I mean covered, in notes that Rhonda Rose has given me. And this is the last picture she drew for me on, I think she's actually given myself and Miss Bauer a final quiz when she comes in on June. She said, you all better know this stuff. So if you look over there, the upper left quadrant, this is actually something she worked on, was building effective office team. And it comes from Patrick Lencioni's book on the advantage. If you haven't had a chance to read that book, I suggest you do. It is an amazing book. It has a triangle of the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And you start with trust, and then conflict, commitment, accountability, and then results. And it's all about building that you have to have a unity, you have to have a team that trusts each other enough to have conflict, that trusts each other enough to say, hey, you're really great at this, but I think if you would improve in this area, it's going to be greater for the team. That's the first thing Rhonda brought to me being in my first year as a principal. Over to our right, and I did do a link here, Renee, if you can click it. The Parkview Playbook, I think it's linked, I hope it's linked. Okay, scroll down to there, just slowly. Keep going, just slowly. This is what Rhonda helped us develop for 5 areas of our school building: academics, safety, public relations, systems. This is what we work on all year, and this is actually the playbook for next school year. So Ms. Bauer and myself sit down and we build this, and it kind of breaks down different activities, things we need to work on, who's going to be in charge of it, when we have to get it finished, and then what's our metric to measure that. So this is something that ties directly in with our data-wise process, because there's a way we're going to judge ourselves on how well that we did. And it's called a playbook, and it's very involved and intense, but very worthwhile and worth the time. So it's something you can always refer back to when you're thinking, all right, it's December, where should I be? Well, you take a look back there and you say, all right, am I on track, am I behind? But again, that's from Dr. Rhonda Rose herself. Go back to our presentation. The lower left quadrant, she worked on how do you run meetings in anything, but especially in a school. And the 5 types of meetings are daily check-in meetings, a lightning round, you work with your office, topical meetings, off-site meetings, and then faculty meetings. And that's something, again, you know, I got my principal's license, took online courses, took courses at Oakland City. These are things they don't teach you, and I'm not blaming them, but they don't think about these little things that maybe you need some tightening on that really help you run a more efficient building. And then also the system she goes through with us. She has been invaluable to me as a new principal, and then also she works, like Jackie said, she works with you as a team. So she works very closely with myself and Melissa, just helping us improve our practice and be better leaders of our school. And then I think we attached some pictures also below. Oh, here we go. Here's where the SIG comes in. This is what we've been able to purchase. Conceptual manipulatives for math. We can pay our teachers for professional development. We offered after-school extended day teaching. And it's not just a study hall, it's actually teaching for kids that we identified through data on STAR scores and whether or not they passed ISEP the previous year. And we were able to pay teachers in ELA and math to work with those students. And it was a pretty small group setting, anywhere from 10 to 12 kids at all 3 grade levels for ELA and for math. We were able to send coaches out to professional development, which is always good, and a few teachers. In ELA, we purchased mentor texts for teachers to use, for examples of really good writing, using those for students to see. We are sending teachers to Schmecken. We've almost had all of our teachers go to Schmecken's conference for literacy, for guided reading, and for writing as well. I was able to attend that last summer. It was awesome. And then we are purchasing Lucy Caucus units of reading. And we also paid the year before for our ELA kits, which is like $30,000 worth of materials that are invaluable to our guided reading. So that's where the money has come into play. You may have to click these. We did put pictures on here. Maybe not. Okay, it's okay. We just had some pictures of our academies in action, and now, dang it, we can't see Jackie. Jackie was able to come over and actually sit with us while we were doing conceptual units, so. Yeah. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Our newest school, our newest SIG school is River Valley, and Michelle obviously didn't meet her son was graduating tonight, but JT's going to do a backup job there.
That's right. I had some dental work done this afternoon, and I was hoping I would have some more feeling, but my tongue is still, so I might have Mr. Stewart come help me out if I get drilling a little bit. That's what it is. So go ahead, Miss Renee. So we were awarded a little over $1.3 million. Our training, or our planning portion of it happened in the spring of last year. So this is our first year of full implementation. So really quickly, I just want to walk you through a couple of things. One of my favorite sayings is feed the teachers so they don't eat the students. So staff development has been a huge portion of what we're doing. Just like Jeremy said, we've had, with the literacy part of it, Shelly Doherty, our literacy coach, has been huge. Tammy Nuxall has helped out a ton. I'm going to do a lot of name dropping because it's definitely been a village. The Numeracy, I cannot talk. The Numeracy Academy with Miss Armenta and Teresa Piazza, who's in the back tonight, has been a huge help to our math department, getting those manipulatives out there, being very specific about what kids are needing in the classrooms and getting it to them. And then a huge part of that, the third bullet, is teacher-led PD. And then all of these teachers have had a lot of input. So we talk a lot about student choice, student voice, but we definitely give teachers a lot of student or teacher voice and teacher choice on what kind of PD that they can have. And a lot of those have been product driven. So once you go in there, we want you to take something out you can use the next day in your classroom. So we feel like we're getting a lot of our bang for our buck. And then the consistency piece is everybody coming to these PDs, and so when somebody mentions something, there's common language between those departments, which has helped out a lot. The second component of that is the community development. So with our SIG grant, we've been able to hire a parent community liaison. That's Jordan Thompson has come in, and he actually has had an altered schedule. So he comes in around 10:30 and then stays after hours for after school connections, and it has been a huge part of what we've been able to do. Before the school year started, we were able to use SIG money. When everybody was taking out the backpacks, we were able to target specifically River Valley kids. So we got River Valley faces to River Valley doors. And so we were able to visit over 600 of our families before the school year even started. And then we do a color blast where we bring in food trucks. We work in partnership with IUTech and IUS and get them in the doors. And we have a huge, I don't know if you've ever, I wish I had thrown pictures up there, but we get it at powdered cornstarch colors. We go out on the football field. So all week long we do diversity things and bring community in, and at the end the chalk flies, and it's a lot of fun. And then the biggest piece of it, student development, and at the end of the day it's all about the students. And like Mr. Stewart said at Parkview, our after school program, our building looks completely different as far as what's going on after hours, which is huge. We've had some growing pains early on trying to figure out, there were so many kids staying after school, which showed us there was a need. But we were able to offer Harry Potter Club, coding, stock market, engineering, chess club, social etiquette, just lots of really neat things that we would like to get to during the day, but can't always. So we were able to offer it after school. A part of that, we were able to offer meals, hot meals for kids after school, which is a huge thing because we know a lot of our kids at school, that's the hot meal that they get. And so getting on that dinner, getting that hot food in their belly at night, parents really appreciated it. The kids really got into it. Amy has been wonderful in kind of helping implement all these things and getting us going and pointed in the right direction. We're just super excited and can't say enough. Like Jeremy said, it's rare when they come to you and say, hey, you've got this money, you have to spend it. And Amy does a good job of kind of making sure that we're spending it on the right things and getting the most bang for our buck. So appreciate it.
I've said this before with these grants, it's a great thing to get the money, but it's also a higher level of accountability that these schools go through. The business office, Carla Wunsch, Brenda Cheshire, they all help manage these accounts. We have on-sites by the Department of Ed. Typically we fly through those pretty well just because of the work and the efforts of the schools.
Board, if I could just say one thing, you just saw a lot of work that's been accomplished in a short period of time by these schools, and I think one of the greatest things that I've seen in all three buildings is just the change in culture that has occurred, the level of commitment that is in the hearts of our staff members, and our staff has benefited greatly, which obviously benefits our students. And Amy is in the background constantly. She doesn't get enough credit for the work she does to help coordinate. This is a big effort on the part, and so I want to also thank her for her leadership as well.
Our next item on the agenda is our PBL presentations, and Kimberly, Ms. Pfeiffer, you're going to introduce these folks.
Yes, I'm going to do a short opening. As you know, project-based learning, you've heard already, is one of the components of the Academy model, and we will be using project-based learning as a 6-12 implementation next year across all of those settings. And you heard, I think, Jeremy say earlier that even though you get the training, sometimes you just got to jump in. And we've had two particular projects that kind of rose to the surface of something that definitely should be shared tonight with the board. And Charlestown is going to present one of their projects and talk to you a little bit about how those things went. Interdisciplinary, really all teacher contents working together, kids really focusing on a challenging problem and then making application of research and things like that. And then River Valley, they gave you a little tidbit of their opening, but they're going to finish up a little bit about their project also. So Mr. Altman.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mr. Altman. I'm the Director of Project-Based Learning. As you know, Project-Based Learning is one of the components of the Academy model, and we will be using project-based learning as a 6-12 implementation next year across all of those settings. And we had two particular projects that kind of rose to the surface of something that definitely should be shared tonight with the board. And Charlestown is going to present one of their projects. And very much for inviting us to the meeting tonight. JT mentioned something about Ivy Tech earlier, and I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge or recognize that tonight we had almost 40 Charlestown High School students graduate from that Ivy Tech graduation too. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a school south of Indianapolis that has that many this year in 1 year. So on to the project-based learning experience. We were very fortunate, as part of the Academy of Greater Clark, to develop a sophomore academy. We had 2 years ago we had the freshman academy. This year we started the sophomore academy. And the team that was created for our sophomore academy have been fantastic. They've been quick to provide the support and education needed for the students, but also very quick to jump into things like the project-based learning experiences. And they did a fantastic job organizing this. I went down there and walked around, and it was just great to see. It fits, with what we're doing with the Academy of Greater Clark. It fits with the grad pathways. There's so much, positive about it that you could go on and on. So, and I don't want to take up much of their time because I want them to get the limelight because they did all the work for this. So please let me introduce Mr. Eric Lannon and Mr. Corbin Feldhouse, who were our co-teacher leaders for the Sophomore Academy, and they're going to present the project-based learning experience that they did with the sophomores this year at Charlestown High School. So please welcome them.
Well, first off, thank you guys so much for having us up here. And Lannon's behind me, and then we have two students who are going to talk to you about what they got to experience and some successes and some things that we wanted to improve on for next time that we do this and when we implement more and more PBL. And I called this How to Make Salad Great Again because the students had to create their own salad dressings using their own unique ingredients maybe, or kind of taking one of their mom's recipes but making it their own. And then they had to pitch it to local businesses who were then going to use that salad dressing in their local restaurants. So I started with the community, right? I really tried to get an entry event that was meaningful and relevant to people in Charlestown, students in Charlestown. So I actually took a half day, and I went to different local restaurants and talked to the owners and said, hey guys, you have such a great service here. I'd really like you to come in and talk to the students about how does this happen? You don't just throw a salad together or anything for that matter. There's a lot of business involved in running a restaurant, and how exactly do you make this taste so good? So they come in and they came in and got to talk to the students, and that was really exciting, and they actually got to taste the salad dressing. We got people from the Charlestown Pizza Company to come in. We got people from Yamato, a few other places around town. And so getting that together, I think, really helped the students say, okay, you know what, this is relevant. This is something that's really close to my hometown, in my hometown. And so with that, if you could go to the next slide, I think this should work. There's a Melissa Stewart, which some of you guys know is awesome, and she sent a kid down here to kind of document what we were doing. And in this particular instance, the students were working on their presentations, right? So they kind of got their salad dressing together, and at this point, I think Mr. Lannon talked to them about how to pitch it, all the different ways to get people to buy your salad dressing. So let's see what they have to say. So I'm going to give you guys a little overview about what's happening behind you. This is first year that I've partnered with Mr. Webb, Mr. Lannon, and Mr. Hobson, and we're doing a really big cross-curricular project called Make Salad Great Again. And what we're doing is, in my class, they are creating salad dressing and writing down nutritional labels. Mr. Webb's class, they're making a logo, learning how to market it. And Mr. Lannon's class, they're making a pitch. And they're learning how to use a pitch to get people to buy items. And for today, we have everyone who's in biology in this large their salad dressing will get served at local businesses like the Copper Kettle, Charlestown Pizza Company, and it's a lot of fun. And as you can see, I mean, most people seem to really like this and are doing really, really well. So I'm really excited, and I'm really, really glad I put this all together.
Okay, so what is your name? Sienna Walters. So who's all in your group? It's Ian, Andres, Dory. Alright, so what are you guys doing for your project?
We're doing a spicy onion ranch. It's like a dressing, but it's kind of like spicy. Which a lot of people like ranch and also like onions, so we thought, hey, might as well take the ranch.
This has been a great new project. They had a seamless life, a great new project, a new product to be sold, and hopefully we have someone that can actually create a salad dressing to get used in their restaurant.
Hey, this is a great opportunity to encompass large groups of students and corroborate amongst different content areas, science, English, technology, to create a project.
All right, well, the first thing we did was we put 1 cup of sour cream in the bowl and then half a cup of mayonnaise, and we mixed it a little bit, and then we put 1/8 teaspoon of ground pepper, some sea salt, some garlic powder, and some onion powder, and then Ty, he chopped up some fresh parsley. We put some chopped ginger just a little bit, and then whole milk, and then some wing sauce, mild, and now that's basically cherry on the ice cream. All right, everybody, this is Mr. Feldhouse, and right behind me, a lot of my students are presenting their salad dressings. It was me, Mr. Hobson, Mr. Landon, and Mr. Webb, and we put together this 150 student extravaganza. So they're getting evaluated by a lot of different community members right now, and this is exactly what they're using to evaluate them. So it's out of 15 points, 20% of their entire grade. This is the only shared part of their assignment, actually. But it's just simple things like, can you hear them? Are they professionally dressed? Do they shake your hand when you see them? Is the salad dressing any good? And all other information that was required for our project. And then right down here we have little things that they can write down for things they like and things they wonder about to help improve them for next time. So I'm really proud of my students. I'm so happy with what they put together, and I'm really excited that I get to share that with you and with a whole bunch of people behind me. So.
Okay, we have a creamy chicken jalapeno dressing. Our slogan is put the chip in our chicken, creamy jalapeno sauce. Our base is sour cream and mayonnaise, and what makes it spicy is the lime juice, jalapenos, and cilantro.
Alright, this is our salad dressing that we made for our project. It's called Olive Tree Dressing. Olive Tree is meant to be is our slogan. It's a olive vinaigrette salad dressing. It's pretty good. We got olive oil, vinegar, garlic, salt, pepper, basil, and custard pepper and other spices. And that's about it.
Alright, so we're here with jalapeno ranch. It's bold looking good. The recipe is mayonnaise, sour cream, ranch dry mix, jalapenos, cilantro, and lime, and then we added buttermilk to help with the texture. I believe ours is very good.
As you can see, it was a lot of fun, and it was a steep learning curve. A lot of controlled chaos, and it was awesome. I think the kids had a lot of fun. They even dug up old Facebook photos of me from high school and pinned them on one of the groups. And I was Mr. Feldhouse's finest. And I'm like, you're supposed to be using like emotional appeals, right? I'm like, I don't know how to cook. I don't think you understand how this goes. Maybe you should go talk to Mr. Landon.
It's like alliteration, you know.
Yeah, right. That would really stuck. And I'm like, well, if nobody actually tastes it, you might be able to get it. Anyway, we had a lot of successes during this. We're going to have some students talk to you here in a second, but I think I'll Mr. Landon to talk to you about some successes and just some things that we'd like to look at for next time when we try to improve it. So,
Corbin came to me in maybe October and pitched this idea, and I was a little skeptical at first. I thought it'd be difficult to get 3 or 4 staff members on board, but we talked to everybody, and we just kind of grew from there. And I had a couple weeks carved out, and he had a couple weeks carved out, and we said, let's just try it and see where it goes. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least we'll know for next year, and we can kind of grow from it. So from my end, we just did a lot of looking at how to persuade people, how to use rhetoric, how to use the different modes of rhetoric to get your reader intrigued or your audience intrigued about your product. It seemed like flavor was kind of secondary for what we were trying to do, fortunately. But that was Mr. Feldhouse's department.
We got it.
They were in good shape. And so we spent a lot of time on that, and it's amazing how much time actually goes into something as small as a 4-word slogan, or how you select your color scheme, how you select what kind of bottle you're going to use. I mean, there's so many things that go into that once you start peeling the layers off, you start seeing that advertising is not an easy thing. And so I grew from that as well. And it was a great experience. I hope we can do it again next year. And the kids were great. We've got a couple that are going to speak with you here in a second about how they grew from it, what they learned from it. Also, a couple of things we want to try to improve for next year, but we'll let them be the critics, and we'll just be happy that we were able to do it. So, Mohammed, can you come tell us briefly about what went well and what might be some suggestions for next year?
Ladies first.
Oh, okay. Well,
My name is Mohammed. I'm from Barrio. I've been in Charleston 4 years, came from Chicago. The project was really great. What I liked about it was we worked together as a team, and nobody, like, if ever anybody fell down on a task, we had to help them continue and finish it. Another thing is we learned, like Mr. Landon's class, psychology, like, you know, about colors, how to attract people to your food and anything. And some like not very negative things about it, was, you know, it chimed in our CQAs and finals. It came in right when the finals came in, and the project came. Another thing is we can come up with a better name of it, you know. And really, it's an honor to speak in front of you. Thanks to Mr. Lennon inviting me, and I appreciate it. Thank you for you guys' attention.
This is Cameron Thompson, by the way. I should have done ladies first. He was there first. Now I feel horrible.
Hi, I'm Cameron Thompson. I'm a sophomore at CHS, and I actually transferred from River Valley, so I know a lot of teachers here. And one of the things that I really liked that was tied into this salad dressing thing is it was a really hands-on type of deal. Instead of just getting handed a worksheet and getting told to do it, it tied a lot of classes in together. So all my core classes like biology, digital labs, and stuff like that, it was really tied in, and so there wasn't multiple things I needed to do during those classes at the same time as doing finals and CQAs and stuff like that. So that was the only complaint I had, was that it was closer to my finals, putting just a little more stress on the students. But other than that, because it's so close together and easy, they made it very simple what we needed to do, and it was a really nice experience, and it was really cool to see how much actually goes into just making something as simple as salad dressing that you just kind of look over whenever you're making a salad. So I really enjoyed it, and it was nice talking to y'all today. Thank you.
And then just final thing, what really spoke to me too is, we have to come back to those tests sometimes. If you can go back up to successes just really quickly. Number 6 down there, that really spoke volumes to me. Last year and years previous, it's a very difficult test, was the biochem, was kind of what I framed this around, because biochemistry is one of the more difficult subjects for students to truly grasp. And we use a lot of biochemistry when making salad dressings and emulsions and different things like that. So last year we had a 64%, this year we had a 72% average. Now I would like to see that continue to see if there's a pattern there, but I really feel like that really helped in making the students understand the intricacies of some of these biochem reactions and things. So it was a wonderful project, and I'm looking forward to doing another one very soon. Thank you all very much for your time.
Board, if I may, too, I think the initiative that was shown on the part of the staff, no one made them do that. It was your initiative, which I'm very proud of you for taking the lead. Both Mr. Feldhaus, Mr. Lannon, great job there. And the other thing that hopefully it depicts is the power of the student voice, because for both Muhammad and Cameron, to get up and for them to express themselves and to talk about the pros and the cons, I think was just tremendous as well. So a lot of power in the student voice.
So who won?
Yeah, I know, I mean.
Who won?
One of the, it was one of the ranches, the girl who had my face.
Oh,
I don't want to say I was a little biased, but no, I wasn't a judge, and she actually won. There was a strawberry vinaigrette, and that one was really good. They actually brought in salmon. They brought in a grill. They grilled salmon, put it in their salad. I'm like, well, you know, that's pretty fun. And then there was a lemon-based vinaigrette that also won, and then that got served in a few restaurants.
So next year, the board would be glad to come out and
Yes.
taste.
Yeah, that's something that's definitely going on, improvements for next year. So thank you guys again. It was a lot of fun. There you go. Well, thank you guys again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Hey, I want to piggyback on our opening, the congressional hearing that we had. It's a really short, concise 20-minute video documenting. I think it's like 10 minutes. But just show the video real quick and then just tack a couple things on the end of it. So this is a project kind of from start to finish that you guys saw the culmination of tonight.
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
as you can see, kind of what we did, we brought the whole 8th grade down to the cafeteria. They obviously, a couple weeks leading up to this, part of their PBL unit was the research part of it, the writing process. We charged all of our other departments through our data-wise process. Argumentative writing was lacking. So we had social studies, science, choir, band, art, PE, everybody else in the building was kind of pulling in the same direction with language arts. And so this was, social studies took the leap, the 8th grade social studies team took the leap and they combined their PBL unit. So we want them to do one PBL unit a semester. So not completely change everything, but one per semester. And then we did one argument writing per quarter. And they may be questioning it or not fully on board or no. Once they see it with their own eyes and you experience it, it totally, makes more sense and makes you want to be a part of it and kind of get into it. So we're really excited about what happened and what it's going to lead to in the upcoming year. Thank you all.
If I may, board, with River Valley, again, teachers making the effort just to put themselves out there, and it may not be perfect, but it's pretty good. And that's, and also the other key is the relevancy for kids. The War of 1812 has just been something in a history book, and how do you try to make that come to life so kids today can see the relevancy of it. And so what a great effort on the part of the 8th grade social studies team and so on at River Valley. So great job.
Wow. It's going to be hard to follow all those, but we're going to try. Our next item on the agenda is our consent agenda, and we are allowed to take several items at once and vote on those. Those would be claims, field trips, travel report, fundraiser report, personnel and stipend report, and a consent agenda. So do I have a motion for that?
Move to approve the consent agenda as given.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion of any of those items?
I have a question. Wrong place, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm ahead of myself.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous, Renee. All right. Let's see what else we got. Gifts to buildings. Ms. Zolman, would you please share that information with us?
Yes, I will. We're starting with $26,565.40. Some of the things I want to do for you is Riverside gave Riverside a washer and dryer used, which is nice. We have a Marshall Center that has $20,834. And I make a motion to accept the gifts to buildings.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Any discussion about taking all this wonderful money? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's also unanimous. Okay, our action item.
Again, 635, almost 636,000 annually. In a perfect world of having every custodial position filled at Jeffersonville High School, our annual expenditure for labor, benefits, equipment, and supplies is $391,000 or $32,596. So we're looking at about $5,000 more per month. You have a breakdown in your attachment. All the references of ATS spoke very highly of them, and their turnover is much less than our turnover, which is great. ATS is willing to make changes to the cleaning schedule as needed by the school, which helps with evening events. Based on the information received and analyzed, we are recommending the custodial RFP for Jeffersonville High School be awarded to ATS facilities at their low price of $38,027.38 per month. The contract period would be 1 year starting June 18th, 2018, with the option of 2 one-year renewals. Those will have to come to the board, and either the next board meeting or the one after that will bring the contract for your approval.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, any comments, questions?
I have a question. I was gonna ask you this question, and I forgot. But anyway, now are they bringing their equipment in? Are we supplying a room someplace for them to locate their supplies, or they just bring that on a daily basis?
Oh, no, they'll have a room for their equipment and their supplies. We'll supply the toilet paper, toweling paper, because we have the machines on the walls for that. So that'll be the only thing that we supply.
So all the cleaning items is what they're, you know.
Yeah, that's their responsibility.
And this is a temporary situation to restore Jeff High and to be able to staff it full-time ourselves.
Correct.
Any other comments or questions?
Dr. Dykeland, I think you told me that all of the employees that are currently there are going to be reassigned to other locations once.
Correct. Yeah. We have several openings. We always have custodians that are off on a daily basis, so they may not be at one particular school all the time, but nobody will lose their job.
Anything else, board? All those, did you have something else, Dr. Clay?
Yeah, I thought my understanding was that, what was it, we had a staff of 12 at the high school.
Correct.
But we were short 6. Okay, couldn't fill 6. So what we're saying is that we're having this company to do the whole school. Now, are any of these employees put in a situation?
Put the highest quality individuals teaching our students and give our teachers that flexibility internal to our own district to be able to move into those teaching roles in which they have background. So I hope that will be a safety net, is that ultimately you as a board will have to approve my recommendations.
If we didn't approve or approve it, would they go to another school corporation? Is there just a certain number of schools that is going to be a part of this group? Mm-hmm. So if we said no, then our eyes, we would have to give up to somebody else, correct?
Right. If you did not give authorization for us as a district to move forward and be part of the coalition, then there will be other school systems that would jump at the opportunity. In fact, there have been corporations that have been turned down because of the first timeline. The first time frame is this June, and then every year there'll be a number of districts allowed to join based upon the coalition and the bylaws of the coalition. So there'll be more districts over time, but we would no longer be one of the initial districts to help drive this process. So I think we have a chance to do it right and help our colleagues around the state.
I think it's very important what John has mentioned, what you have added about the fact that I think the person needs to be a teacher first, a trained teacher. And if they have expertise, like we have a teacher here that's got law background, and actually not just background, he's a lawyer. But I think the fact that you're a trained teacher is very important. And I think that's the point you were trying to make, John. And I agree with you. And I think this board would agree with you. Any other discussion, questions?
A couple questions. You said there'll be 7 in the coalition. Do we know what size those districts will be?
Yes.
As it stands now.
Decatur Township and Indianapolis, they're not quite as large as we are. We may be the largest of the districts. So they like us, I think, because we're rural, suburban, small town, you name it, we are it, right? Which I'm very proud of. So I think they like that. But Decatur Township and Indianapolis, Elkhart, Concord is more of a suburban school system. Decatur Township is suburban. Crothersville, small rural school system near us. Batesville, east of Indianapolis, just north of us. They're more small town. Goshen, more small town, is coming in. So they've tried to pick all the different sizes. So it goes from north all the way.
You got it all.
got it all. We got it all from Elkhart, you know, the furthest north, to us, and everything in between. So that was sort of the goal. And I think as we go to the State Board of Ed, this is not a done deal. The State Board of Education will have to review the bylaws, review all of our applications, and you know, make it possible for this to happen.
Okay, so this is not going to happen. I mean, I thought this was a done deal. It's just a matter of who the participants would be.
Well, we weren't asked to join. If it was to join the coalition, there's a huge backing on the State Board of Education to make this work. This is fully, but we have to go through the steps, right? So we have to show that we belong there through our application, and they know about our academy pathway work, and I think that's something that's very exciting to them as an innovative move. So, but we do have to, they have to be presented to the State Board of Ed, and they ultimately will have to approve the coalition with its members.
I'm just trying to find a downside on this, and I'm not seeing it. You know, I mean, it's most likely going to happen based on what you're saying. So why wouldn't we want to be out there and have some influence on what this is going to look like ultimately? I would rather do that than turn it over to somebody else and hope they do the right thing. And then when you get to the hiring, I mean, we've always done a good job with hiring, so I think you put common sense in there as well. But I just don't see a downside to doing this.
Any other comments, board? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposition? Unanimous. Next, we're going to look at awarding an RFP for substitute services to educational staffing.
This board, Greater Clark published a notice of request for proposal for substitute services for teachers, paras, custodians, actuary, and clerical. We received 5 proposals, which were reviewed by our CFO, Dr. Thomas Steigels, myself, and our supervisor of human resources, Tricia Helton. ESS was chosen as an excellent choice for Greater Clark, both professionally and financially. ESS has excellent references, includes stability of 18 years of experience with substitute services to schools. They were one of Forbes Magazine's America's Best Large Employers in 2017, being the only educational staffing firm on the list. In reviewing their response to the RFP, they had great plans to prepare for high volume absence days, recognition programs to ensure retention of our substitute pools. They were going to provide electric time and attendance tracking that would eliminate what we previously used, paper timesheets, so that would be more accurate in keeping track of time and attendance. I will, if you approve the RFP today, I'll return later with the actual contract for you to approve. Based on the information that we received in the RFP, I'm recommending the RFP be awarded to Education Solution Services.
Do you have a motion?
I move we award the RFP for student services to Education Solution Services.
That's what counts. I second that motion. It was slightly flawed.
And did you second that?
I did.
Okay, we have a motion for a second. When you look at the analysis of sub-services, what does it mean down there under ESS? I mean, what, I'm sorry, PESG was the bonus. What was that bonus?
Yes. So it was an optional bonus that we could pay to retain or to try to
incentivize.
Substitutes. So we had difficulty in retaining and even soliciting substitutes. And in order to even get substitutes, we had to pay out a bonus in order to get substitutes to stay for a certain amount of days per week, so that we could know that we had substitutes for a period of days. So that was an optional that we paid to try to
days each week, so that we would know we would have them.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a comment. We're gonna have to readjust our pay. That's why we can't get anybody substitute.
And we are adjusting the pay to correspond with the adjustments that we gave our paras and custodians and everybody else when we
I'm just, from my experience, like we're paying the same amount as Kelly. So we have competition. And we can go right across the bridge and get $100 a day to substitute. So if we want to retain subs and get our fill rates up, we're going to have to pay better. I'm just saying.
Dr. Dyke and I just talked about that this afternoon, so, yeah.
So
When we were
just
talking
my
about our
2 cents.
contract, yes, absolutely.
I have a question.
Sure.
So you said that negotiated some contracts, but contracts don't really address substitutes.
They don't, but we want to make sure that we're paying our substitute, or obviously we're paying our substitutes in order to entice them to come work for us.
I agree with Christine on this, is that pay is so low for some people, there's no reason to come, and then we've got these other employers out there having problems hiring people that even pay a little better than we do. So we really need to address that at some point.
Absolutely.
Board, as you remember, you have approved increases in pay for all of our just about all of our job classifications so far. For that very reason, because we need to be competitive. We've not looked at the substitute rate of pay. I think that that's something that we definitely can take another look at. It was said it's been the same, and under the new contract with ESS, they do allow us to set the rate, so they're not dictating that to us. So it's a good point. We need to look at it and see what we can do.
Just one more thing on that. The beginning salaries on, now I don't know, but anyway, I was trying to find people for Jeff High School, But if I'm not mistaken, the beginning hourly rate was low for beginning custodian. I don't know what it is, but they said, well, they're not really paying that much. I don't know what they're paying. Do you know what we pay first year beginning custodian? Is that $8, $9, $15? How much?
$10.
10 or 10? We just increased under the new contract. I think it's $10.50.
We got a new contract. What was it under the old contract? $8?
Far less than 10. It was like 9, 10 or something like that, right?
Okay.
So we just,
I know we have got some problems, but we'll continue to have some until we make some shifts.
Plus, the economy is really good if it's hard to find people. Everybody's.
That's a good point.
Any other comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, discussion items. Board, do you have any items you'd like to discuss? Okay, we'll move on to reports and requests. I know, Ms. Kraft, you have one, don't you? Pardon me? Okay, I'm sorry. No. Yes. No, I gave you an assignment.
That's what I wanted to make that very clear, that it wasn't a assignment. Okay. I've had a very busy and lucky week to be a Greater Clark County School Board member. I met with the foundation and got to hear Dr. Hartledge present our guided reading program. Thank you, Dr. Hartledge. Then I went to a luncheon of the steering committee for the academies of Greater Clark, and I was assigned a seat next to a gentleman I had never met. And I proceeded to tell him how wonderful we were, which is what I do all the time. And he was taking all kinds of notes, just kept And so I just went on to tell him how great it was and what all we were doing and about our work ethic certificate and how the governor was now signing it and so forth. And he kept saying, after he got ready to leave, he handed me his card, and his card read International Representative for the UAW. And I thought, oh my, I hope I said something right, because this is serious. So I gave him my card, which has a school bus on it. It's not really very impressive, it just has the school bus. So I said, well, that's the best I can do. And I was happy to do that, and he was very, very appreciative. And he said to me, the key word, if you ever need anything, just give me a call. Never tell Nancy that, but he did. So I kept the card, and I'm ready when he is. And then I had the opportunity to go to Jeff High to judge the talent show last night. It was a wonderful, wonderful talent show. And there were 3 other members that were judges. One of them was a gentleman from WHAS. And I thought, okay. So I started in on my, did you know that what we do with academies? And do you know what else we do right? And he didn't know. He was taking notes. I said, and I just happened to have a copy of this. Would you be interested in reading about what we're doing? Oh, he took it. He was so happy. So he left with that. So I had a good week. Thank you. Any reports? Mr. Payton?
No, thanks.
Well, I have one. We attended the Teresa Sullivan, myself, Beverly Pike, Dr. Mellon, attended the spring regional meeting of the Indiana School Boards Association one evening, and there were a couple of things that stood out right away in that under the awards category. Greater Clark County School Board was named an outstanding board by this organization for 2017. So that's pretty good. And even to top that, one of our board members has accumulated 248 points. This is all based on points, which is if you're going and you're learning and you're attending state meetings and other things. One of our members was named to the highest level of boardsmanship, master board member, and that would be Ms. Nancy Pratt. Yes, well, I didn't do it, but I didn't know it. Well, I've been keeping that a secret. We heard the results of the membership engagement survey, and several of us participated in that, and we were thanked for that participation. We also heard the strategic plan update was shared. Legislative session review. There were 110 education bills presented to the legislature. 110. And 22 became law. Oh well. This one I felt was pretty important for us to remember. It's said that only kindergartners, this became law, only kindergartners who would be 5 years old by August 1 can be counted in the ATM. In the state of Indiana, we had 2,644 kindergartners that were not 5 by August 1. Early entry, different things. This would have produced if this would have happened this past year, this you have to be 5 by August 1, this would have produced an $18.5 million reduction in tuition support. So that's what we've got to look forward to. And I'm sure we're going to be looking at our early entry kindergarten because we're not going to get any money for those kids. Yes, it's a horrible shame. The 7th Circuit Court of Appeals decisions, which I found a couple things very interesting, but I don't want to get all to it. Tenure rights, Mr. McLaughlin, I'm sure you know this, tenure rights cannot be taken away from teachers who earned those rights before 2012. That means the current statutory language that requires RIF decisions to be made based on performance and not seniority cannot be applied to those teachers, anybody that was hired before 2012. They have to, they will still be, their seniority will still be the most effective. But the state of Indiana has filed for an appeal, so there you go. And then there was a special session yesterday, and we heard about some of the things that were going to come up. And one was about safety, and the other one was about the bill to take over the school corporations and appoint their school boards. And I haven't seen the results. Well, I saw the results, but it was too much to read before I came here.
A piece of that legislation was basically to take over the leadership and function of the both Gary schools and Muncie schools. So what's more concerning about that is that there's an establishment of some financial parameters, which Dr. Dykel at some future time will present on, but that the district is viewed as not handling their finances according to the state guidelines, that you can go on a list. You know, you can basically be warned and so on and so forth. And the problem I have with all that is that if you have a school system in our state that maybe made some mistakes, then you address those mistakes. You don't make sure that you punish everyone else. And that's what I think is happening with that legislation, is that they're taking something that needs to be corrected with one or two districts, and now all of a sudden they're going to punish every district. So I don't think that's fair, but that was the legislation.
Okay. Public comments on non-agenda items. Do you have any? Public one, very few. More comments. Any comments? Nope. Okay.
For being here, and as usual, Renee, because she really had to do a lot of work to manage the presentations. So thank you for everything you do to help make things